Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and more Chicago Way coverage here. So today we have one of our last faction review videos that we need to get done, and that will be for the Bootleggers, which we've just also recently unboxed. So one of the expansion factions, one of the first ones here, with more recently the Peaky Blinders and the Coppers for the Brits. So let's jump in here, see what these guys have to offer. We'll take a look at their cards and their faction special abilities in detail as well. So obviously a very sharp looking crew here, kind of a counterpart to the gangsters. So we have to have the Racketeer, that's our main man. He's sporting both pistols, so, and that's for free there. So he's got the 2400 cost, 5 hits like normal, nerve on a 2+, +1 to shoot like most of the leaders of the different factions have. So gotta have him no matter what. And hey, 2 pistols is always nice, right? Not gonna run out of ammo. The lieutenant is optional, and we do have some choices under him. So if we want to bring him in, he's going to cost us another 2,000 points. Obviously, for that we could get 2 suits plus 1 muscle guy. So we got to factor that in. 3 activations versus 1 guy here. He has 1 fewer hit, 1 worse nerve, but he has that awesome +2 to shoot, which, depending on how we load him out, can be absolutely deadly. Also comes with a built-in +1 hand-to-hand, right? Let's not discount that. Obviously, there's going to be more shooting usually than hand-to-hand, but let's not forget that. Also with a +1 to drive, so that's the extra stat that this game has, obviously, versus Dead Man's Hand. Now we can go with the pistol option for free since we're already paying 2,000 points for him, and that's a good option, right? He's going to get in close, and if he can get in close and do work, that pistol's going to drop some people. Now, if we want to spend extra money, though, we can give him the pump action shotgun. We can get that elsewhere, but won't be as effective as it would be in his hand, right? Because we're going to get that range bonus if we get up close and personal with that, plus his built-in +2 to shoot. So he's going to be surgical with that and cause, again, some damage. It's just, given that we're having to pay for the boss, plus he, with the shotgun, costs more than the boss, obviously it's going to be very bad if we lose him, or if he's otherwise kind of just, ineffective in the game. We really have to work to get those points back for him. Now, the other requirement for the faction, so really we could just have the Racketeer and suits. We don't have to have anything else. Suits are our main level guys here, 800 bucks a piece. Still 4 hits, another -1 sort of on the nerve, so 4 up nerve, no other bonuses or penalties though. Here again we could go with pump action shotguns. That runs us an extra 2,000, so we got plenty of ability to get pump actions in this force, something to think about. And then they could also just have the free pistol, right? So good stuff there. So just your average model basically, but again, could have plenty of pump actions if we wanted to. The muscle is the low end here. That's only 400 points. They only have 3 hits. Fairly bad nerve, right? 6 up. No other penalties except -1 on their driving. They're just not meant to be good at that. But again, pistols for free, and pump action shotguns only 100 here. Now that could be the spot really to spend the points on the shotguns, because their relative lack of stats is going to be mitigated by the fact that, well, when you get up close and personal, you have those bonuses that the shotguns carry. And the other option, there's pump action or old-fashioned shotgun, like the double barrel guy over there. The bonuses of those weapons up close is going to mitigate their relative lack of other skills, and really for just much cheaper too, right? It's 400 bucks for them, plus 100 for the shotgun. Still cheaper than the suits to begin with. Much cheaper. Actually, you get 2 muscle with shotguns for the price of 1 suit with a shotgun. So keep that in mind. Or, right, 5 lieutenant, or 5 of those guys with shotguns versus 1 lieutenant with a shotgun. Different ways to think about that. But obviously, they can only take the 3 hits, and their nerve is a liability. Last but not least, though, we get the driver. All right, 600 points or 600 bucks for that. Better nerve again, though, and actually a +2 on driving. Comes with that free pistol, so no other options. There's too busy driving, can't sport heavier weapons. So that is the stats there. So good combination of things. Again, that lieutenant is tempting, but we have to, really be able to afford points-wise depending on what size of game we're playing, right? So a lot of times he's going to be, unfortunately, on the sidelines, but we're going to definitely have to have some suits. The question is just how many of those versus the muscle. We are capped at 4 on the muscle, though. So, again, I do like the strategy of just keeping cheap options there, get as many people on the board as we can, too, and then maybe throw the shotguns there. But for certain game situations, that lieutenant with that pump shotgun is going to be Absolutely devastating. So let's flip over, take a look at their abilities as well. So campaigns, they're basically gangsters, right? So we have that. Now we've touched on this briefly in the unboxing video, but their abilities are absolutely nasty as far as messing with the turn order, but also with nerf tests. Now they're both situational. They're also both once per game, whereas other factions have some recurring things. Let's Get to Business is absolutely nasty. It's always nice when you can have sort of initiative card swapping and manipulation, but here they can swap 2 of their initiative cards with any other 2. Not just swap 1 for another, it's swap 2 for any other 2, first of all, right? So that's going to really be able to mess with an opponent and really, let you, in the right situation, salvage a turn from being maybe bad because of just the way that the order is shaken out versus the opponent to making it really good. Or, maybe you just didn't get really dealt quality cards. You can at least mitigate the damage a little bit by bumping some things around in the turn order. But the other key factor with that is you can swap with the opponent's cards too. So if they got like an ace and a king or something like that, no, that's going to go to you. And you can have potentially like multiple aces and kings, right? Like if you drew your own, but you swapped it with like your low end, like 2s and 3s and stuff like that, you can really screw somebody over with that in the right situation. Thankfully, it's only once per game because that would be backbreaking if they could do that over and over again. Now, second one here, maybe you just don't see the end of it. Once per game, when the bootlegger's opponent has taken and passed a big nerf test, you can throw a wrench in that and force them to re-roll the big nerf test. Now, if you're already in a position where you're forcing them to have to take the big nerf test, the game's probably going in your way, but this is kind of just like a dagger in the back. They feel like, oh man, we've passed that roll. Maybe we're still in the fight for a little bit, and you can just force that re-roll and maybe just kind of end things right there by forcing them to just outright fail that. Absolutely nasty in the right situation. So again, somewhat situational for both of those, but the first one certainly will come up at some point in the game. You're going to have to definitely want to use that, unless you're just supremely lucky and like all the cards and all the order is just always in your favor, but you'll want to use that at some point. The other one, obviously, we got to be able to force them to take the big nerf test before that to apply, but absolutely brutal when that's gonna be there. And that can force the opponent to really maybe play more cautiously too and not be as aggressive against you, because if things do turn bad to where they have to take that test, it's just going to be nasty to force them into that position. So then let's take a look at their cards. So we start with Jack. Wants to stay in place here. All a dream to begin with, ain't nobody ever been free. Play when an opposing character declares that it will take at least 1 move action. This character ducks back instead and loses its turn. So again, these guys are really good at manipulating the turn, so having that out there, so the opponent's got to recognize if they don't see this on the table for initiative order, got to respect that that's going to be out there potentially, and always it's going to get played when it's going to be most effective, ideally. So if it's something where their characters are going to get into a position where they're going to definitely be getting some favorable conditions against one of your characters once they've declared their actions, we're going to just actually have them duck back instead. So obviously they got to declare at least 1 move, but that's absolutely nasty. The Queen, this ain't about money, it's about revenge. Play when a bootlegging or bootlegger character is taken out of action. A single bootlegger character who has yet to activate can immediately make 1 move action. Does not count as a movement in the normal way. No move marker is placed. So obviously situational again, and it kind of sucks, right? We gotta be about to lose a character, but it lets us get a free move without any other penalty and really won't count as a move. So in a lot of cases that can either get us out of trouble or get us closer to where we're going to have favorable conditions, especially if we know that maybe that character is going to be next to activate, and we're going to get us that much further into better positions. Maybe that'll get us to where we're in a good range band and we don't have to move as part of our turn, so we can maybe just shoot more times or maybe free up that action to get like an aim or something like that. So good stuff there, but again, obviously we got to be losing our character, which we ideally don't want to do. King here, I ain't building no bookcase. At the beginning of the turn, before any characters are activated, for the remainder of the bootlegger turn, bootlegger characters count as if they are in substantial cover. Also pretty nasty. So basically we can, a turn where it's going to be crucial, we know there's going to be a lot of action, shooting back and forth both ways, we can basically give our characters substantial cover, which for free, basically, with the playing of a card. That's nasty. It's going to affect the opponent's ability to shoot us and hopefully let us weather the storm. So really, really strong defensive card there. And then finally, the ace. You the only devil I know. Play when an opposing character fails a nerve test and receives an under fire marker. Immediately place an additional under fire marker on any other opposing character. Absolutely nasty. So again, we talked about them manipulating nerve tests with their faction ability, but this is just a really strong card. Obviously, if we're playing it, we're not having the ace on the field necessarily for our initiative, but being able to, it doesn't even say anything about like this can't be used to take a character out. So theoretically, this could that extra marker could end somebody. Very nasty. So obviously situational, right? They have to receive an under fire marker via nerve test, but then we can place one on any other opposing character, and there's no range restriction, there's no line of sight restriction on this. That is brutal. So if there's some character that hasn't maybe been touched yet, we can theoretically throw damage on there and maybe mess up their turn a little bit, right? They're going to have penalties to shoot and stuff like that. But we can pile the damage onto other characters too and make it even harder for them to do things. It's definitely going to affect the opponent's activations and turns and what they do with that. But yeah, unless there's been like some sort of errata, there's no range restriction, line of sight, and just says place an additional one, and it, theoretically it could be used to knock somebody out. So very deadly. So again, if you're not seeing the ace anywhere from them, be on the lookout for that, especially if you're in a situation where you've been forced to take a under fire marker from them. Very, very nasty. So all in all, these guys look to be a actually pretty strong faction. Eager to again get them painted up and test this out with some of their abilities here. So very nasty stuff. Let us know what you think of the bootleggers here, guys, and we'll hopefully get them to you on a battle report very, very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you.